Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joy Lageray, and we are here today with Chris Eger and Richard Williams from One Take Weekly. And I had them about a year ago. I believe it was like June 2022, and they were on last. I did post that video for you so that you can go back there and listen to that as well. In the meantime, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor whose banner I don't have here. Oh, no. Hang on a minute. We're just about ready. Thought I had it, but I didn't.
Yeah, you had it earlier.
There we go. Anyway, Luscious Moss Studios, owned and operated by Chad Christ, who's the sponsor of this program. And he's located in Edgewood, Washington. He does primarily set up for drummers and guitarists, but he does produce CDs, recordings, and videos. So if you have any of those needs, you can contact him online. His studio is a very warm, inviting, creative, stimulates creativity and collaboration. So if you have a chance and you have any needs, go look him up and you won't be sorry you did. And I know that's a bit of a competition to your studio, Plumtree Studios.
We're so far away from each other. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it is always. So I want to welcome both to our program today. And I have a lot of questions about, I mean, I know your background because we gave a first interview, but what I don't really know the story on is how this One Take Weekly got started and how that all came about. Can you guys enlighten me?
Okay, well,
pandemic.
Yeah. So the shutdown was basically the catalyst that kind of launched the whole series. So the backstory on the whole thing, I started playing piano first. I was a piano classically, took classical piano lessons starting at 6 years old.
Oh.
But I never really applied myself. I could, sight reading was not my, not a real big strength of mine. I just kind of relied on my ear and, I did the work that I needed to do to get through, the lessons and everything, but I never really applied myself. Then, of course, as we discussed in the last interview, I saw the video of Stevie Ray Vaughan when I was 12 years old, and I went home immediately and started playing guitar and never really put it down. Then in high school, I started experimenting with bass, and a little bit later on in high school, I was sort of playing with these other high school juniors and seniors. We were playing in a kind of thrown together band, and I would stay at practice later when everybody else went home because there was a drum kit set up there, and I would just start working on playing the drums. And so I always had this idea for like a decade, since I was able to do the four main building blocks of rock music, popular country music, blues music. Mm-hmm. I always had this idea that I could film all the parts of the video, film all the parts separately of a song, and then put the videos together into a music video type of thing where you could see me playing all four parts or however many parts there were. And there was never really an application for that until we were told that we weren't even supposed to be in the same room with, my own bandmates. I couldn't go practice or rehearse or play with my own bandmates. And so that gave me this idea right at the beginning of the shutdown. I called Richard and said, hey, what would you say about putting together some type of virtual recording session that could be filmed and put up online, and that's where the series started, right there.
See, I didn't know you had the idea for it years before.
I mean, it wasn't.
I thought you just concocted it.
It wasn't necessarily for the series that we have now.
Okay.
I mean, we added the extra challenge of never stopping. Once the camera starts on a video, we don't stop the video. It's so
the name.
So it's all done in one take. So that's an added challenge because when you're only recording the audio, you can punch in, you go back and fix things that didn't work out right. So that's where we get the name One Take Weekly, and
okay.
Also the weekly part. We've been doing it every single week since March, the last week of March 2020. So we just released episode
167,
168.
168.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there when you celebrated your anniversary. Oh, that wasn't the anniversary. How does that connect to the jam that you have at Mirkwood in Arlington?
Okay, so I'll let Richard take that one.
Okay. I'm going to disappear when you guys talk because you're both in a confined space there, and I'm sure you'd rather see you than me. So here you go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Richard.
I just remember Cookie Spurk at Local Billy's called me and said, we want to do a jam, but we don't really have much money for a full band. And I said, well, what you got to do is Chris and I can play everything. You just hire us two, and we don't need a third person. And we'll just play whatever part we need, depending upon the jammer.
That's right. And so, yeah, it started at Loco Billy's here in Stanwood that we all loved and miss now dearly since it's not there anymore. But we went for an entire year and had just a great response and have such amazing followers and people that come and support us. Not only the jammers that we know and love, our regular jammers, but also just people that come to be a part of the night and be a part of the scene every week and support the jam that Richard and I started. It's really been an awesome 2 years.
And we were there almost exactly a year.
Yes.
At Local Billy's.
Yep.
Yeah, we moved to the Mirkwood without 1 week of a hitch.
Right. There was no gap.
No gap.
We moved right to the Mirkwood at the beginning of June last year.
I went to that Local Billy's jam. I liked it there, but boy, was I scared. The first time I went there, you weren't there. And this man, I can't remember his name. He was one of the bands, and he was really nervous because he wasn't used to country music, and he had no clue what I was going to do. We got through it, but I've come a long way, and so have you guys. So now I go to Mirkwood every now and then when I can. So I really enjoy that. And speaking of the jam, those are great harmonies last Wednesday, by the way, Chris. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And when Richard gets on those drums, my heart just goes. I love it. But anyway, how does doing One Take Weekly? And I understand the difference between that and recording because Chad makes me go over to every single word. I end up going over to some degree when I'm recording. But how does that relate to jamming with people? Is there a continuity there, or what's the difference between doing something like One Take Weekly and doing actual live jam?
Well, when you're jamming, it's not like you can go back and start the song over. I mean, you can, but that is extremely rare that once you start a song that you would stop in the middle of it. So it's kind of like every song in a jam is sort of done in one take. That's the beauty of live performance, is that there's so much spontaneity that goes on. That's the coolest part for me, really, is that at a jam, you're never going to have a very rehearsed type of feel at on any given performance. Even the tunes that we do kind of semi-regularly at the jam with maybe the same cast of characters. Sometimes there's an extra part thrown in or two, and you're going to get something completely different from the version of that same song that we played last week. So the spontaneity of the jam is really what I think is awesome, because there can be just kind of magical moments that happen that maybe wouldn't have happened if it was just a rehearsed thing that you're just playing your part. You can come up with something kind of off the cuff and it just be a kind of a magical thing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think that's why I like jams so much, is the fact that they're so creative. So when I jam with people and the different people in the area, and most of them are rockers. Not necessarily, they don't have your country background. It gets really different. I mean, the song comes out not at all like I intended, and I just let it free flow. But the beauty of it is the creation part of it. When it comes to writing this song, I think all of this is going on in my brain. So it's much easier for me to write it and put it together than if I never did this. So you're contributing to that kind of knowledge that it's on the moment. This is it. Here you are. No retakes. We're just there. So that is a connection between One Take Weekly. Thank you for joining me.
Jam host partner Sean Denton at the jams, he used to have a saying like, well, that's how it goes tonight.
Yeah, that's how that one goes tonight.
Yeah. Sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know. I struggle every now and then. I still have a problem with listening. I'm listening to the people who are playing because I want to hear the music, and then I forget my words, and then I got to try to catch up. It says like my ear is over here, but my mouth is here, and I got to get them to work together. So
well, and one of the things that I think part of the good that Richard and I are doing is the fact that I never was really a part of the jam scene until I became a professional musician, had my own band, and I had been playing. That's how I got my stage time, basically. Like if you're a race car driver, you have to have seat time. You know, it's outside of actually being in a race. If you're a golfer, you want to have time on the driving range outside of actually playing a round of 18 holes. Well, a jam is sort of like stage time for people to get their feet underneath them and to understand how to go about being on stage and being a performer. You know, I think that's kind of a really an invaluable thing that jams provide for professional musicians as well as
I always felt they're kind of specifically for those people that don't have bands though, too, that don't get to get up. This is like Chris just said, this is their opportunity to get some stage time. And so you know, it's
absolutely
geared to those in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just put a post on today saying, you know, that this whole experience of trying to break in and get a gig is very puzzling. And I got a lot of responses about how one goes about getting known and getting a following or trying to build a following. And jumps aren't the best way to do it, but it's one way to do it. And it's a very, for people starting out, like I'm going back into it after getting out of it for 8 years, and it's just so changed. I think COVID made a big difference. Some of your thoughts on that kind of thing, please.
Yeah, I know for me, there once kind of the floodgates opened back. It was about 2 years ago, I guess. The 2021 in the summertime is really when gigs started happening more regularly. And once those floodgates were open, in my case, I was off to the races, and I was trying to make up for lost time, you know, booking anything that I had available out, and I got a call on a booking. I was gonna make it happen. And I feel like there were a lot of groups that, you know, maybe rightfully so, they were a bit more cautious in getting back out there. They were maybe they just stopped playing altogether during the pandemic and didn't continue after. I know of a lot of folks that unfortunately didn't continue either in a band setting or just kind of gave it up. But on the other hand, that allowed those of us that did continue on. And it was like the floodgates were wide open. And I had these last 2 summers, 21 and 22, especially last year, 22 was just pretty grueling almost.
Dude, you had a couple months where he had more gigs than there were months in the day. He was doing too many 2 for gigs
Oh my goodness.
Last August, yeah, man.
It was pretty wild. But I think that it's almost as if you want to say a silver lining to the whole thing, that especially the video series that the pandemic, like we said, was the catalyst for this video series, and so that was sort of a silver lining to having to go through took a couple years of really a hard time for everyone.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a few minutes to answer some of these responses we're getting. One of my followers is Rodney Landert from the Hot Rodsters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's fiddle player at Charlie Daniels Tributes, and he's taken off on this this venture, and he's definitely comes to see us every now and then. And so I want to say hi, Rodney. Good grief! One of these days I'll learn to speak. And then, there's somebody who said I'm watching, so we can't see who you are.
It just shows up as Facebook user on my comment. So yeah,
Hi,
if people could put their name in, that'd be wonderful.
Hi, Facebook user.
Oh, I know that.
Can you see these comments, Richard?
Yes. Yeah, I clicked the
You
comment.
want to take the next one, or where Richard is the man?
That's got to be Raymond Hayden.
Yeah.
His husband. And it's funny that he should say that because he is an amazing keyboard player, entertainer.
Yes, he is.
But he's in a few bands, Grieve the Astronaut.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he backs up Jessica much. I think he must.
Well, every now and then they do. They do.
But she's a hoot too.
I see one that says 10,000 hours, and that's got to be referring to the time it takes.
How long it takes.
Like, yeah, that's got to be referring when I was talking about how a golfer wants to be a lot of time on the driving range and just get that, what it feels like to hit a good shot, what it feels like to really perform a song well and to get the crowd involved and yeah, so 10,000 hours, that's a daunting number, but I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, man, it's those first few years for beginners are pretty grueling, pretty torturous.
It can be.
One of the things I found, and I don't know if you'd agree or not, depending upon where you're sitting, because you're more of a out there person than I am at this point, but one of the things that I've noticed is as people move up into the bigger band definition, or what A band, whatever you want to call it, and they become better known, and most people have been following them for a while. The tendency to communicate with the bread and butter people that are there, that are your fans. Without a venue like, say, for instance, a jam, how else would you establish that communication? And I've noticed how you've developed this jam at Mirkwood, and from the beginning until now, there's just a tremendous amount of rapport there, and it just keeps growing. So what are your thoughts on that?
I know. I'm just so thankful that we have such a community that comes and supports us like that.
Definitely.
Because there's a bunch of jammers that come to play, but there's also every bit as many people that come to just listen and love the community vibe that we got going. There's such a kind of happy, inclusive feeling there. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so, like what I would say, that is a skill in itself. Yes. Right. And it's much like I think we might have talked about this on the last our last interview. I've been really focusing on trying to get better at crowd involvement and like audience participation, for lack of a better term. When people feel like they're a part of the environment there and not just, there's a wall, right, that, I'm kind of standing up there playing guitar to, just like a computer up there or something. Right. But when it's interactive, that's what I'm really trying to get at. When it's an interactive show, that really connects you in a way that people are going to want to come back and see you again.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and what you learn when you do enough jamming, or when you do enough of these smaller gigs, and maybe something doesn't come off the way you hoped it would. Maybe there's some type of faux pas. There's a string break, or
Some Scooby.
yeah, something happens, and learning how to just make that another fun element. You could make that kind of a fun element of the show, and there's a skill to that as well, to being rolling with the punches, because not every gig there's going to be something that doesn't come off quite the way you expected it to.
Absolutely.
So having that skill is just another way of getting people to stay involved and stay kind of in the moment. That's why people go and listen to live music, is because it takes them away from their stress and everything. And
you're reminding me of the Davinos are so wonderful at that. I mean,
they are
inclusive. I mean, talk to the crowd better than anybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, probably standing on the drum while he's holding his guitar up and the drummer is smacking it with his sticks might help too.
Well, that's pretty showmanship, isn't it? Yeah, that's entertaining. I love them guys. They're one of my favorite bands to watch. I mean, outside of the super band. But,
I have a question about this thing you were just talking about those moments when things happen that you don't really expect. Do you remember the time when I was teasing you about playing Wipeout? And your drummer took off and started playing the drum beat to it.
Yeah, that's right.
That was so wild. I thought, oh my gosh, I kind of figured you knew how to play it, but I didn't want to put you on the spot. And it was just so much fun. And you guys always, when I go there, I always feel special. I just do. And thank you for that.
Good.
So moving right along, Richard, I know we talked about your background before. But one of the things I notice when I go out to jams at the drummer skills, and a lot of drummers around the area who are just starting out or go up to jam don't necessarily know country beats. I mean, they should. They're drummers. I'm sure they were taught that, but not everybody has a country groove in their bones. So when you get on the drums behind me, some kind of magic takes over, and I'm always looking for that with the drummer. Does that drummer actually, is he the heartbeat of that song? Is he the heartbeat of that band? And I think that's really, really important. Can you tell me a little bit about what you think about, or how you approach when you're on the drums, when you're working with different people, not just
I think hopefully it translates to all the instruments, but I always want to serve the song. That's the deal. We're doing, this is your song and we want this song. It isn't about what kind of fast licks do I have or how showy can I be. We need to make the song sound as good as it can. Sometimes it's laying out and being quiet. Sometimes it's being loud and being bashy. It depends on the song, what we're doing and what's required. But yeah. Because I give guitar lessons here and some bass and drum lessons, but I kind of don't call them specific music lessons. Instrument lessons. I call them music lessons, because you got to talk about all of it, and it gets back to serving the song.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think you guys do a great job. So I really enjoy coming out there. I wish I could do it more often, but it's like I need to go a lot more places that I never get to. And it's like if I had 8, maybe 10 days in a week, it might work.
I'm glad you're out hitting them all. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, I do the best I can. I try to get a few people that are just starting out, or are not as established as people like your band, for instance, Chris. Just to give him that reinforcement, and I'm hoping that's what it does, because I know how frustrating that whole process is. I'm in it, so I guess I know a little bit about that. So when I was reading through some of the stuff online about you, Chris, one of the things that that I ran across was that award you got from the Blues Society. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is? I don't know. It says something about BB player or something, and I wasn't sure what they meant.
Yeah. So every year the Washington Blues Society has it's called the Best of the Blues Awards.
That's the BB.
The BB is, but it's also, of course, a nod to the King of the Blues, BB King. So they call them the BB Awards, and they are voted on by the members of the Washington Blues Society, which is one of the biggest blues societies in the country. Actually,
I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say if it's definitely the biggest on the West Coast, if not like maybe second or third in the nation as far as the total membership and the reach of the Washington Blues Society. So to have an award like that, especially the best male vocalist. Oh, there we go.
We got another one.
Yeah, that's right. So best male vocalist is named after Mark Dufresne, who is just a legendary character and a legendary vocalist here in the Northwest.
Get the glare out of there.
This is an award 2021. Richard and I keep this one here at Plumtree because it's really should be both of our names on this one.
It was to say the Best Virtual Solo Duo Blues Act Award.
And so this is basically this is an award for One Take Weekly. And
what year?
So
2021. Yeah.
2021. So it was
so it's a second. By them.
Oh well, I've won. So I've won that. I've been nominated a number of times.
Right, for guitar.
Best songwriter, but I've won the best male vocalist 3 times now, I think, which is just I'm totally honored by it.
Yes.
And
yes.
This one, I was very thankful to get this one as well. Just kind of to have something concrete for the work that we have done here.
Yeah, we did a lot of work in that year.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I was making the comments about your drumming, you've played guitar for me as well. And you obviously know what you're doing on the guitar. And I was trying to remember if you ever played the bass when I was singing. I can't remember, but I do know that you play all 3 instruments. And most likely keyboard. Pardon?
I think I did play bass one of the times you were there. Yeah.
Well, it was so good I didn't notice it.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
When you don't notice the bass player.
That's a compliment.
That means they're doing their job very well.
Love it. Okay, now I've got this thing out on the internet right now on my Facebook page. I didn't put it on Matured Musicians, but I did on Facebook about how difficult it is to get a gig when you're first starting out and you don't have a following. And I've gotten a lot of different comments on it. But one of the things that struck me was how difficult it is, especially for up-and-comers, to make a living if that's what they decided to do for their career, and get the kind of money that we need. And when I started asking around, like what people are getting for gigs these days, the A-list bands, the ones that have been around for a long time, is different than when you're first starting out. And, I think even if you were, had a big band like Heart by Heart, for example, Chad Quist's band, to get that kind of money is not really what's happening right now. Clubs are struggling to get back in. They don't have a lot of the money that they need to pay higher wages. I wish that weren't true, but it is. Some people handle it by charging a cover, and that goes to the band. But another thing that independent artists are doing, and you're one of them, is starting, I'd always say this wrong, Patreon. Oh, Patreon. Okay. Can you give me a little rundown, either one of you, whichever one wants to talk about it, about why this is so desperately needed and why it's so important for people to get this membership and pay that fee monthly. It's not a fee; it's a whatever you agree to pay for artists to continue their work.
Well, I think, like you said, there's just not enough money to go around, and I don't know. My thought is, I'm just so thankful that there are people out there willing to pretty much donate their money to foster this thing that we're doing.
Yeah, Patreon is very cool. If you're one of the viewers out there that are unaware of what Patreon is, it's a subscription-based online platform where it's not just for musicians. It's for kind of all types of creative people. They can have a place where their followers and their subscribers get exclusive content. They get kind of information before anybody else. And like what we're doing on our Patreon soon is we're giving away some tickets to some of our summertime shows. So there's a number of ways that a creative our creative team, we can kind of attract a following on Patreon, and then hopefully give them some type of exclusive product or experience that has totally made it worthwhile. Our Patreon subscribers have totally made it worthwhile to continue our video series, doing it every single week. Those are really the people that we're doing it for. They keep our cameras rolling, as I always say. And in turn, we give them special edition videos that you can't see anywhere else, behind the scenes. Every week that we put out a video for everyone. We also do a supplemental video that shows some cool aspect of the mix that Richard did, or something that we did on the drums that was kind of unorthodox, or something like that. So just behind the scenes type of content,
And we had little sweepstakes, little drawings
and giveaways and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's just a great it's a great way for independent creative types to sustain themselves,
So how do we get to this? I am one of your donators, if you want to call it that, and I do watch the content. And I first started this with Jessica Linwiddie. I don't know if you know her or not. And I got the inside stories on a lot of her songs and why they were created and how and so forth. And yours is a little different because yours is based on the song that you're playing in One Take Weekly. And I really enjoy listening to them. Sometimes I just don't have enough time to do it every single week, but I try to pop in and read it or listen. You usually have it on video as much as I can, and I enjoy it. It's just, it's interesting to know the background of all this stuff. You would never get to know this unless you had something like this. So how do they subscribe to your channel or your app?
You go to patreon.com/Chris Eger Band.
Okay. Pretty simple.
There's 3 tiers you can pick, as little as $5 a month.
Yep. 3 tiers. And, it's like I said, it's an awesome way to kind of supplement what we do. For me, doing live gigs, that has been the way that I have made a living for over a decade.
Uh-huh.
And so to now have this platform, which also was, the reason that we made the jump onto Patreon, was also because of the shutdown. When I couldn't go out and play live gigs, and Richard couldn't have people coming into the studio all the time to record here. This Patreon platform kind of kept the lights on.
I'm sure it did for a lot of people out there. I don't think you're the only one, Chris.
Right. Well, and we're so fortunate. I feel so great. Not everybody's the entry level. We have all kinds of the $20 a month and $50 a month people that I just feel so fortunate that they respect and love and want to, foster this so much. It's awesome.
Yeah. I hear you have some interesting things coming up in the future. Did I hear a blues festival?
Mhm.
Yeah. So for anybody out there that hasn't heard the news, the Mount Baker Blues Festival, which has gone on for the past 25 years, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of the bill for the last 15 since 2008. I've been there every single year in some form or fashion on the bill. And that festival, it's won a national award. So the Washington Blues Society does their awards. The it's blues.org. So the Blues Foundation, which is based out of Memphis, gave Lloyd and Marsha Peterson, the founders and the producer, the organizers, still not the word I'm looking for, promoter. The promoters of the Mount Baker Blues Festival won the KBA award, Keeping the Blues Alive, for the best blues festival in America. So that festival just holds such a special place in so many people's hearts up here in the Northwest, and so many amazing artists from all around the world have played that stage. Unfortunately, the venue where the Mount Baker Blues Festival has been held for the last 16 years or something like that, they decided not to renew the lease on the property for that weekend. And so the festival was basically left without a home. And when I got word of that, I knew that something had to be done. And Lisa and I and a whole team of people kind of put our heads together and went through what possibilities we could try to come up with to pay tribute to the 25 years of that festival. And what we came up with was a one-day event up at the beach at Birch Bay, the property behind it, and Randall, the owner of that, one of our favorite spots to play, the beach, right at the bar. But the property behind the beach is an old golf course, and they were kind enough to allow us to use that as the site of this tribute to the Mount Baker Blues Festival. We're holding it on the Saturday that would have been Mount Baker, August 5th, and we've got acts. All of the acts are alumni, I guess you might say, of the Mount Baker Blues Festival, which the headliner being our friend Hamilton Loomis from down in Texas. He's coming up to close the show out, and we couldn't be more excited about it. And yeah, tickets are going fast, but there's still some left. So we hope to see as many of you out there as possible.
Where do they get these tickets, Chris?
So the website is called Ticket Leap, like a frog, ticketleap.com. And you can go on to, so the full address that you would have to type in there is bakerbloostribute.ticketleap.com. Or if you just go to my website, chrisegerband.com, EGER, chrisegerband.com, the link is there. And it's also on the old Mount Baker Blues, the Blues Festival website, which is bakerblues.com. You'll get a link to the tribute show.
Yeah. So. Well, that's some heady stuff, and I kudos for you to help them get a place to have this venue.
Yeah, the bottom line is we all felt like something needed to be done as far as bringing about closure right, to the whole thing.
Yes.
So if this is indeed kind of the last hurrah, that's great. At least these people didn't just have the rug pulled out from under them, and yes, it was all over without knowing that it was going to be over. So we'll have this as a closure event, but then also hopefully it turns into something else down the road.
Right.
Really?
All right.
Right.
I'll be watching that, see what happens. So what are your plans? Richard, I do want to say, I do want, before we go into what your plans are for the future, I do want to go into a little bit about your studio. I never got a chance to last time. So, what is Plum Tree about, and what kind of things do you do there, and what kind of ways are you helpful for other people? Are you helping other people with their music?
Well, that's a good question. It's just I had said to my wife 20 years ago, man, I feel like I'm never going to get a studio. And she's like, oh, honey, someday we'll buy a bigger house and you can have a studio. And so I like started looking that day. And anyway, so we bought this place in like 1998, and it has this little detached little area where we're sitting here was sort of an outside room with a loading dock door and a hot tub right here. And so I just did a little addition, 120 square foot addition onto the side, because I thought I could build 120 square feet without a permit. Turns out you can't. If it's attached, you need a permit. So I had to go through the permit process. Once I was done, once I kept it 20 square feet, and I took over another little what was outside pantry. No, what do they call it when you keep all your green beans that you can and stuff? Sort of an outside cellar, yeah. But it was ancient, yeah, because the house is 1892.
Wow.
So some pretty old stuff. But anyway, so it's just a little studio, and I built it with an analog 1-inch 16-track tape machine. It was all analog for the first 10, 12 years or so. I did not want to get Pro Tools. I kept not doing it and put it off. And then I realized, like, okay, I'm just a decade behind everybody else. I don't know how to operate Pro Tools. And so I finally bit the bullet and put in Pro Tools and had horrible years.
Forgive me for interrupting, but in 1998, that's when you bought the house.
So we bought the house.
And you started construction on this studio.
Yeah.
How long had you already been an engineer?
Good question, Chris. I abandoned my trumpet scholarships in 1981 when I found a recording studio, American Music Recording Studio in Fremont, and I hung out there. And the first week of hanging out there, the guy said, "Hey, stick around and make coffee and clean up. I'll teach you how to do it." And I never went back to college and never went back to my Teamster job. I just immersed myself in audio engineering pretty hardcore.
And so we're talking about kind of that seat time, that time on the driving range or time on the stage. Well, Richard had 20 years of being in the trenches and working for other people's studios before he got,
And I think one of the more valuable educational things was I was a chief engineer at Metrics in Everett, and we got a call. This band was panicked. They had their New Year's Eve gig, and they lost their sound guy. They didn't have a sound guy for it. And I was a cocky 20-year-old guy, like, man, I can run a studio. Sure, I can do it. And so, yeah, I did a live gig New Year's Eve on a big PA, having never been a live sound guy before. But the money was like twice as good. So I became a live guy for the next decade or so, which is super helpful to get kind of both sides of the spectrum. Because in the studio, you can try stuff out. You got the do-overs. Yeah, live, you don't have the do-overs. And sometimes the stress can be, you just got to fix it right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love running live sound. Still do.
So have you done anything with Jacob? Because his sound has improved from the time we first went out there until now. And this last time that I was there, it was great. I mean, I really appreciated that. Were you behind the scenes there somewhere?
I pretty much keep my mouth shut. That's his baby. I let him do it how he wants to. I try not. It's got to be really bad for me to have to say something to the sound guy. I just let them do their thing because I know how I was as a sound guy. And so every now and then I will. But I have a whole laundry list of things I'd like to say that I don't. But he's a good guy, and he's treating us well, and he's doing the best. Like a lot of times I will go to bat for him. People go, "Oh man, he's just so loud," and I go, "Well, no, actually pay attention. The speakers aren't even on right now because he's really trying to keep a lid on it.
Right.
It's all the stage sound. It's a concrete cube. It's a very loud room without the PA being on. So."
Yeah.
A lot of times people think he mixes loud when he really doesn't. He's trying to keep it as quiet as possible.
Yeah, there's good acoustics in that room for some odd reason. I mean, it's kind of a strange setup, but
Oh, it's better. You should have been there 10 years ago before
Yeah.
any of that acoustic treatment was brought in. It was a nightmare room. I mean, glass and concrete, and just everything was just blistering loud. But yeah, if you look, there's acoustic panels all across
Yeah.
the ceiling. The
Mhm.
whole back of the stage has some behind
Nice,
the curtain,
nice heavy curtain,
and then the heavy
yeah.
curtain, and then they built that mezzanine. So now we got some more diffraction. And so yeah, it is a lot better than it was. It really is.
I've noticed the difference. So
Yeah.
Uh, I know that sound, to me, sound, if the sound isn't right, it's really hard for a singer to
I
sing.
think some of that too, and his and going to bat for him. He's been immersed in there as the guy pretty much 6 days a week for the last 2 years. I think he's just his chops are just getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
So
good.
what do you guys have coming up? What's going on? What's on your plate? What's in the future for you?
Well, Chris is he's got so much work just to get ready for this August 5th.
I sure do. On top of all the other gigs that you know,
Right.
like a normal summertime, we're right smack in the middle of heading in. Well, we're kind of heading into the busy season, I should say. Let's see. I'm doing a little bit more traveling this year than kind of pre-pandemic years. We've been lucky enough to get some really fun gigs in Oregon, in Central Washington, and all the way over. We're going to be in Walla Walla the last week of July. This coming week, actually June 24th, I'll be over in Plain, Washington, just outside of Leavenworth, for an outdoor concert at Plain Cellars. It's a winery over there, and a free outdoor concert. Looking forward to that one. And what else? Just, I mean, we're just buckling down here. Kind of the big show on August 5th is going to kind of be the summit of the summertime, and you know, I'm just hanging on for the ride, trying to keep my voice in shape.
We sort of do it all. We have a few clients here that come in that use us both.
Yep.
You know, and we'll just be, especially for like a singer songwriter that needs a band but doesn't have a band.
Yeah.
You know, we could be all those people for you and
I get that.
your team. So
yeah, we've done
a few different records this last couple of years.
Yeah, a few full on records and lots of just kind of one-off sessions and that type of thing where somebody will come in, and I just have enjoyed the heck and learned so much from Richard and being a part of a lot of sessions here at Plum Tree. It's really a nice way to make a living.
Yeah, like I said, it's good work if you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of those clients, as you said, we're going to back him up here at Bertelson in a few weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Thomas Banger. You would love him.
No.
Benger.
Okay, I'll look him up. Is he on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful voice, very gospel type of voice.
He'd be a fantastic guest right here.
Yeah, he would.
All right.
He's got a few records out there you can go check out. But I predict you will love his vocal.
Yes.
Okay. So do you go out to Winthrop in the summer times at all, Chris? Or is Winthrop kind of out of your range?
No, that's one of my favorite spots in the world, actually, is that town. I haven't been over there to play for probably 5 years or so. There's a couple venues kind of right in that area that I love. And then, of course, I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Winthrop Blues Festival back in 2011. And that's a very special place for me, because I grew up going over to Winthrop and going to see shows at the Blues Ranch there.
Yeah.
But I'd love to get back over to Winthrop and actually have a gig. It's been too long, so I'm gonna go.
How about Eric? Is he coming back? I missed the last time. You guys were at Lincoln Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Burning in Mount
Haven't
Vernon.
you done it 5 years running?
Well, minus.
Oh, that's right, pandemic.
Minus 2 years there for the pandemic, but yeah, we did Burnin' in Mount Vernon 5 last November, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And we do have a date set with the theater. We haven't quite worked out all the details, if it's actually going to happen, but there is a date penciled in there. We've just been so busy with this tribute to the Baker Blues, but I'm gonna kind of start having to make some phone calls and see if we can again make Burnin'. It'll be Burnin' in Mount Vernon 6 if it happens, and we're looking at mid October. So,
oops, go away. Uh-oh. I should have shut that off. Anyway,
they're already calling to try and get tickets for Burnin' in Mount Vernon.
Could be. Could just be. I want to make a comment about Eric Heatherly. I heard in these bands when I was playing between 2000 and 2015, people play Flowers on the Wall. And, you know, until I heard Eric Heatherly do his version of it. And it's like, I was like, that's it. That's it. That's the sound. And Swimming in Champagne, I like that one too, but I like all of his stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about Eric, that and how this all started, that you had him up here for concerts?
Totally. So speaking of the Blues Ranch there in Winthrop, yes. They had not only the Winthrop Blues Festival that has been going on for 37, somewhere in there, 30 plus years anyway, that blues festival has happened. But for 3 years, they also put on a country music festival. It was called 2 Days in the Valley. And the last year, the final year, was the year 2000. And my dad, I was 13. I think I was 13 at the time. And I, going back to that conversation about me starting to play guitar, with the Stevie Ray Vaughan video being the genesis on that, the inspiration for that. So that happened about 8 months before this show in Winthrop. And so I had really just been woodshedding guitar for every single day after school, coming home, locking myself in my room for 6 hours at a time, and just really all I did was play guitar. And went to this show, the 2 Days in the Valley show. My dad took me, my brother, and a friend of ours over there, and Eric Heatherly was on the bill. And as much as the Stevie Ray Vaughan experience, that video changed my life, seeing Eric live on that Blues Ranch stage was another just as important life-changing experience. And I knew from that point that being not only a guitar player, but being an artist and writing music, being a showman, being a guitar player and a vocalist was going to be, that was my passion from that moment. And so fast forward about a decade, I started my own band at this point, and of course we're incorporating a whole bunch of Eric's songs into our set. Flowers on the Wall, Someone Else's Cadillac, Wrong 5 o'clock. So many of the favorites that people probably think might be my original tunes, they're Eric's tunes that were on his records throughout the years. So I had started my own band. We're playing his music, and some mutual friends between Eric and I started sending him video of me doing his songs. And so he was, seeing that this kid who came out to see him, a dozen times over the years, whenever he would tour the West Coast, my dad would take me to his shows. And he would now see that we're, my dad is still my bass player to this day, but that these guys out on the West Coast who always come to see me, they're doing my songs, and he could tell that it was really what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. Just it was totally my passion, and this was becoming my career. And he called me one day and said, if you're ready to do an album here in Nashville and up your game a little bit further, take that next step, I'll produce it for you. And so I was just floored, and of course went out there, and we even more than just my dad and I going to his gigs, we had a really good rapport, and became even closer, and great friends at this point. And
he's a fun guy.
Yeah.
Yes, he's an amazing person, and we decided to start putting on shows here in my hometown at the awesome historic Lincoln Theater, 1927 theater there, which just has such a great vibe for both Eric and I. We both have a love for vintage things, vintage cars, guitars, amplifiers, music gear, all that. And so to have a show like that features both of us, and he and his wife, now Lindsay, they have a duo called the Heatherleys, and my band backs them up when they come out here. And Richard was a part of the show last year, came out and played some trumpet, and
oh shoot, and I missed that.
We actually did a live version of One Take Weekly on stage.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool.
So it's just been, we've really grown this show into one of the best events of the year, I feel like.
Yes.
People love it. People love
it. Stay tuned, folks. Watch for the advertisements. You'll be posting that on your website. What? I'm sorry.
I think it was practically sold out last year too. So yeah.
Sure. Of course, the best one is the one that I missed, but I'll be there again.
All right.
All right. So we're almost we have 4 minutes to go. So if I missed anything that I probably should have touched, I'll give you this time to have your last word with us before we have to wrap this up.
What do you say, Richard?
Eric's a great bowler. It was Lindsay's birthday right after the show, so we all went bowling the next day. And man, I had more fun bowling. He is such a character.
I think Richard's giving him a little too much.
Well, I enjoy bowling.
Richard is a great bowler. Eric is a fun guy to bowl with. I'm not going to go any further than that.
Vintage bowling shirt.
Oh yeah.
Vintage.
He's always a showman.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, now we have 2 things in common, because when I was growing up as a teen, my aunt and uncle owned a bowling alley and a fine dining restaurant connected to it. But I spent my hours bowling.
Oh, great! You could probably bowl. You got your own ball then.
Well, I did back then, but I don't think I could bend that far anymore.
Where was the bowling alley?
It was in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Oh wow!
That's where I'm from. Yeah, I think the mosquitoes finally took it away or something. That's a state of nothing but mosquitoes. It's a state bird joke there.
Oh my goodness!
A lot of bowling back then, but yeah, that would suit. Eric.
So for my last word, okay. I would just like to thank everybody that has supported both the live shows and the online content that Richard and I put out. We have just had such a blast over the last 3 years of this team working together and being a part of the Plumtree studio here. And then also we have such an amazing whole crew of people that support us and regularly come to the show and support live music, and are on the Patreon team, buy the merchandise, and keep us in a fortunate position to be able to do this. That's really who I'd like to thank right now.
Yeah, good call.
So just thank you, and hope to see you out there this summer.
All right. Good. And you, Richard, do you have any parting shots there?
Oh, I'm just going to ditto what Chris said. Yeah, we're both very fortunate. This has been a cool couple years. I know what I'm doing every Tuesday. I always look forward to it. You know, I never dread one of our gigs that we have. We always have a good time.
You know what song we're doing tomorrow?
You never tell me.
I don't even know what song I'm doing tomorrow.
Well, I'll be watching.
All right.
I'll be watching. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming today. And I hope we got everything out that you wanted to say, Chris. A lot of things are important. Do tune in to One Take Weekly. I'm going to say it again. Patreon, whatever.
/Chris Eger Band.
There you go. And this festival coming up, the Blues Festival, which may be the last one for a long time, folks. So get your heads together and see if you can find a way to save that. And finally, I'll be looking at your schedule to see where you are. And I missed this picnic thing. I had a gig on the 10th, and I was raining on the day that we were supposed to go to this place you were telling me where I think the festival is going to be. I found that out on your site. And so, anyway, I missed it, but doggone, one of these days I'll catch it, Chris.
We'll see you there.
So thank you both. And one last thing, I do want to thank the commenters that we have. Richard, if you could see the last three, do make a comment before we go. We're running about a minute over time.
Yeah, thank you, Rodney.
Thanks for watching, Rod.
Everybody, thanks for
watching. All right, guys. Take care. See you later.
Okay,
thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Well, that's it for me. Stay tuned next Monday at 2:00. I do have a musician that I think you'll enjoy. Until that time, keep watching the advertisements that I put out for his showing and interview. In the meantime, happy Juneteenth Day, and you all have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye. Till next week. Let's see if I can get out of here gracefully.